When the powerful steal from the poor, they may rise high, but when they fall, it is always hard and painful. Welcome to Sierra Leone Folktales channel. In the bustling city of Mofolia, a southern part of Sierra Leone, where the Atlantic breeze carried both the scent of the ocean and the of struggling citizens, there lived a politician named Ngor Joe. To the public, he was a man of the people, always smiling, shaking hands, and making grand promises. But behind closed doors, Ngor Joe was nothing more than a greedy man whose hunger for wealth knew no bounds. Ngor Joe had risen to power by promising to fix the broken roads, provide jobs for the youth, and bring electricity to the rural villages. His campaign had been fueled by borrowed smiles and fake generosity, handing out bags of rice and small wads of cash during elections. The people believed in him, hoping that he would bring the change they desperately needed. Before Honorable Joe became a corrupt politician, he was once seen as a true man of the people, a humble servant dedicated to improving the lives of ordinary Sierra Leoneans. His journey began in the small town of Mofolia, where he grew up witnessing firsthand the struggles of the poor. He knew what it meant to wake up to empty plates, to study under dim candlelight, and to fetch dirty water from distant streams. Determined to change his destiny, Ngor Joe worked hard. He excelled in school, earning a government scholarship to study public administration at Fora Bay College. While at university, he became deeply involved in student activism, passionately speaking against corruption, poor governance, and the neglect of rural communities. His speeches were electrifying, his passion contagious. He promised to fight for the people who had been forgotten by the government. After graduating, Ngor Joe returned to his hometown and immediately became a beacon of hope. Unlike other politicians who only visited the people when elections were near, Joe was different. He spent time listening to their concerns, sitting in village meetings, eating with the elders, and sharing laughter with market women. His acts of kindness won him the hearts of many. He paid school fees for poor children who couldn't afford an education. He bought farming tools for local farmers, helping them increase their crop yield. He rehabilitated community wells, ensuring people had access to clean drinking water. He advocated for better health care, donating medicines to clinics. Whenever a young man or woman struggled to find a job, Joe would use his connections to help them secure employment. When disaster struck, whether a flood, fire, or disease outbreak, he was always the first to respond, using his personal funds to assist the victims. Ngor Joe's generosity quickly spread beyond Mofolia in the Moyamba district. People across Bo, Kanema, and McCaney began to recognize him as a leader for the common man. He was constantly invited to speak at youth conferences, religious gatherings, and community events. The media branded him as the future of Sierra Leone. When the time came for elections, the people begged him to run for office. At first, Musa was hesitant. "Politics is a dirty game," he would say. But the elders, youths, and women encouraged him. "If you don't go, they will keep stealing from us." Driven by his passion for change, Joe finally agreed. His campaign was filled with hope and sincerity. He promised to fix the roads, improve education, and bring lasting development. Unlike other candidates who used intimidation, he won through love and trust. The day he was elected, the streets were filled with celebrations. People danced, sang, and chanted his name, believing that Mofolia in the Moyamba district had finally found an honest leader. Little did they know, power would soon corrupt the man they loved. But once he secured his position as member of parliament, his true colors began to show. He awarded road construction contracts to his friends, pocketing millions of leones while the roads remained nothing but muddy death traps. Schools that were supposed to be built in the provinces only existed on paper, and the funds for healthcare mysteriously vanished. leaving hospitals with nothing but expired drugs and broken beds. With millions of stolen government funds at his disposal, Ngor Joe indulged himself in an extravagant lifestyle. While ordinary Sierra Leoneans struggled to afford one decent meal a day, he spent lavishly on expensive suits, gold watches, and luxury cars. He built a mansion in his village, one in Bo and another hidden in Gambia, all while the people suffered in abject poverty. His greed soon extended to women. Ngor Joe became notorious for using his wealth to lure young university girls into his web of deceit. He promised them jobs, scholarships, and a luxurious life if they agreed to be with him. Many, out of desperation and financial struggles, fell for his tricks. Ngor Joe didn't just stop at the young women. He extended his generosity to their families, ensuring that their parents also benefited from his corruption. He bought houses for them in high-end areas of Freetown, provided them with flashy cars, and even sent some of their siblings abroad for studies. His girlfriends were treated like queens while ordinary people suffered, struggling with unpaid salaries and skyrocketing food prices. When Ngor Joe became the Honorable, his greed knew no bounds. He inflated road contracts, awarded ghost projects, and funneled millions into his offshore accounts. Yet, despite his blatant corruption, no one dared to touch him. The reason? Commissioner Ailey, the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission, ACC, was also enjoying the loot. Instead of investigating Ngor Joe, Ailey was secretly working with him, ensuring that every stolen dollar was well hidden. Their deal was simple. Ailey would protect Ngor Joe from prosecution. Ngor Joe would share 30% of every embezzled project with Ailey. Any whistleblower who exposed corruption would be silenced before the case reached court. With this arrangement, Ngor Joe and Ailey became untouchable. While ordinary citizens lived in slums, their pockets grew fatter. Meanwhile, Ailey, the so-called anti-corruption watchdog, lived like a hidden billionaire. He invested in secret businesses in Dubai. He built a private estate in a hidden part of the country. He sent his children abroad. While public schools crumbled, he also claimed and seizes poor people's houses. For years, Commissioner Ali was regarded as a fearless fighter against corruption. As the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission, ACC, his job was to investigate and prosecute corrupt officials. On television, he spoke boldly about transparency, justice, and accountability. He promised that no one, not even the highest government official, was above the law. But behind the scenes, Ali was a different man. Instead of fighting corruption, he was profiting from it. His office had become a marketplace where the rich and powerful could buy their freedom. At first, people suspected Ali was compromised, but they had no proof. Many corruption cases mysteriously disappeared. Big politicians and business people accused of embezzling millions were never prosecuted. In some cases, investigations would start, but before they reached court, the files went missing or the suspects were declared innocent due to lack of evidence. However, whistleblowers within the ACC started leaking information. They revealed that Ailey was accepting bribes in cash, expensive gifts, and even land properties to kill corruption cases. For years, the people suffered in silence. They heard of billions being allocated to development, yet their communities remained the same or worse. But this time, the people did not forget. One day, in the small village of Gbama, a young teacher named Boykai decided enough was enough. The children in his school had been sitting on the floor for years because the promised government desks never arrived. The clinic had no medicine, and the villagers had to walk miles just to get clean water. Yet, every month, they heard on the radio how the government had invested millions in rural development. Boykai took his frustration to the local radio station FM 9.9. He spoke with passion, exposing the lies of Honorable Ngor Joe. He called on the people to demand accountability. H's words spread like wildfire, igniting protests across the region. At first, Ngor Joe, "Let them talk," he told his aides. "They will shout today and forget tomorrow." But this time, the people did not forget. The protests grew bigger, and international organizations started asking questions. Protests erupted in Freetown, Bo, Kanema, and Makeni. The youth, traders, teachers, and farmers all took to the streets, chanting, "We want our money back! Down with corruption!" With no more protection, Ngor Joe tried to flee the country. He arranged for a private jet to take him to Dubai, but angry citizens blocked the airport, chanting, "You will fix our roads before you use them." Ngor Joe was arrested and sentenced to 25 years in prison. His bank accounts were frozen, and all his illegally acquired properties were seized. His girlfriends, who once lived like queens, were now homeless, and their families, who had once benefited, were left with nothing. But what about Ailey the commissioner? For a while, Ailey thought he had escaped justice. He acted like a hero, claiming he had taken down Ngor Joe. But the people were not fooled. They knew the truth. Documents exposing Ailey's role leaked, and soon he too was arrested. Both Ngor Joe and Ailey now sat in the same prison, the same cells where they had once sent innocent whistleblowers. With Musa and Patrick gone, a new wave of leadership began. The stolen funds were recovered, and real development finally started. Roads were built, schools got proper desks, and hospitals. But his work didn't just take down Ngor Joe and Ailey. It opened the eyes of thousands of youth, inspiring them to stand up against corruption. Before Ngor Joe and Commissioner Ailey exposure, many young people in Sierra Leone had grown disillusioned with the system. They believed corruption was unstoppable, that the rich and powerful would always escape justice. But Boy KL proved them wrong. Inspired by Boy KL's courage, young activists and students took action. University students organized public debates and protests, demanding accountability from government officials. Social media exploded with the hashtag #EndCorruptionNow, where young people shared stories of corruption they had witnessed. Community groups formed anti-corruption clubs to educate people on their rights and how to report corrupt activities. Within months, a new movement was born. Young journalists, activists, and even ordinary citizens started exposing corrupt practices in different government sectors. Officials who once felt untouchable were now constantly under scrutiny. The youth learned that fighting corruption wasn't just about protesting. It was about holding leaders accountable, demanding transparency, and refusing to be silent. Thanks to Boyke's bravery, a new era began in Sierra Leone. The youth, once silent, now had a voice powerful enough to shake the very foundations of corruption. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more amazing Sierra Leonean folktales, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these stories alive and brings our rich culture to the world. Until next time, stay inspired and keep the stories flowing.